And here to give us a local law enforcement perspective and to talk about the potential for police reform is Bakersfield Police Chief Greg Terry. Chief, thank you so much for being here today. And I want to ask you right away what your personal reaction to this verdict was.
Well, it was an important day for us. And as I said, when that murder occurred, it was horrific to watch. And nothing about what those officers did on that video was appropriate or has any place in American policing. And so it was an important day. It was an important day for our justice system to work. There was an investigation. There were charges filed. There was a jury impaneled. There was a trial. And then with the full weight of the law, the jury delivered their verdict. And so that was an important day for our justice system as well.
The spotlight now, obviously, shifting to police reform. The House passed the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, but it's now stalled in the Senate. It would, though, ban chokeholds and also make it easier to pursue claims in civil court. Do you think that this could help?
Well, the chokehold has been dealt with the law here in California, so we no longer utilize that. But getting to the heart of the issue, it's about trust. We cannot, as law enforcement agencies, fulfill our responsibilities and be successful in our communities if the community doesn't trust us. And trusting relationships are built on mutual respect and understanding of what each other's needs are. It requires transparency. It requires accountability on the part of law enforcement and a willingness to have and allow the community to have input into many of the things that we do. And so we have certainly a lot of work to do, and I'm excited about where we are now. We have a wonderful community, and we have experienced a great deal of support from our community over the many years, but we recognize that there's still work to do because there's many areas of our community where the trust is not what it should be.
So how do you go about, doing that work, rebuilding that trust and having those conversations? Are there plans in the works to I guess at a local level, move forward and try to connect?
Yeah, we are fully engaged and believe in a community policing philosophy. That means that the community has input because we have across our community have tremendous public safety challenges. We cannot solve these issues alone. It will require all of us to work together. So what does that really mean? That means the community, us going out, getting outside these four walls at times, going out and engaging the community and listening and learning. And we have to do a much better job of that, and we certainly intend to do that. But we also recognize at its foundation, every police officer's actions must be centered on service, justice, and fundamental fairness. And so those are the kinds of things that we're focusing on. And like I said, we firmly believe in this community policing philosophy. So we are going to be in a better way, continue to be out and engaging and listening to our community and understanding what their needs and concerns are, because we are here to serve them.
And you touched a little bit on, officers and their duty, their responsibility. Have you had any conversations, with your fellow officers about the verdict? And what's kind of the sentiment that they're feeling this morning?
Similar to what you've seen across the country. I mean, every professional police officer saw that and recognized it for what it was. And appropriately, there were charges filed, and now there was a verdict delivered. And so, like I said, it was horrific to watch and has no place in American policing and certainly is not acceptable in any level here. But yeah, there's a very, very common sentiment to what I've just expressed across our department.
So the Minnesota police chief in that trial, he testified, and he testified against one of his former officers, condemning his actions, tearing down this so-called blue wall of silence. Do you think that testimony is going to kind of change things for officers across the country going forward?
Well, I think everything about that trial and that incident has changed things for the better and given us opportunities to work to improve. But I would tell you, even here locally, we have had officers disciplined, fired, arrested, suspended, simply because our officers internally came forward and reported incidents. And so it is very, very important for that to take place when those kinds of things occur.
And have you seen more officers reporting incidents since George Floyd was killed?
Well, not necessarily since that event, but what we've been doing is raising that conversation and raising that level of awareness that you both have a responsibility and a duty to intervene and to say something when things aren't going right And we've had many instances where officers have done that. Some of it has been, taken care of with corrective action or counseling or reaffirming policies or other types of training. But some of it has resulted in, like I said earlier, people being fired, suspended, and arrested simply because our officers came forward and said, I saw something that wasn't right.
And has there been an impact in terms of, obviously you talked about, some officers leaving, but is it hard to retain staff and recruit staff now?
Well, policing is a challenging and very, very difficult profession. By the nature of what we do, we are tasked with going into very chaotic, dangerous, very often situations, trying to learn what is occurring, stop threats that are present, engage people, try to diffuse situations and de-escalate things so that we can learn. But those very often are not able to do that in some instances. But where we can, and most often we can, have an ability to do that, that's where our focus is, so that we are delivering the professional and high level of service that our community expects from us. Again, fundamentally, so that we can be trusted, so that we can deal in a more effective way with the public safety challenges that are facing our community.
Now, you did touch on de-escalating tactics. Has training changed related to that, or will it, I guess, going forward?
Training has changed a lot over the years, and it's continuing to change, and we are constantly looking to see how we can reform our training processes. What other factors can we bring in? What different types of training can we bring in? What other types of perspectives need to be brought in? And how can we broaden the perspective and the competency of our officers to deal with what I've just described as sometimes very dynamic and very chaotic situations, so that they're prepared and skilled and equipped to de-escalate when they can and when it's important to do so.
Now, we're out of time, but I do want to ask one quick final question. What would your message be to people here in Bakersfield, the message from the police department moving forward?
Well, I just want to thank our community for their support. Like I said earlier, we have a wonderful community that has supported us a great deal, but we also recognize that trust has got to be earned, and we're going to continue to work to do that.
Well, thank you so much for your time this morning. We appreciate your perspective.
Thank you for having me.